I recently released a video exploring the question if Aikido is a cult. That video in turn brought up a lot of self-reflection in me, including how biased I potentially am, why do I keep releasing videos about Aikido, whether I'm right or wrong about the cult thing altogether, and a lot of other things. So if you're interested to have a deep talk about these things, stay tuned. Hey, critical thinkers of martial arts. So I kind of gave an intro of what you can expect from this video, but just to give a few more details on what's coming down your road. So first of all, I invite you to grab your preferred beverage, and that's because this is going to be an attempt to be as honest as I can be in this video, self-reflective, and also kind of exploring the potential ups and downs of what I do and some of the unspoken things related to Aikido, and especially relating to the video which I released recently about the Is Aikido a Cult? What that video brought out in me, like what reflections and what considerations. And also too, the attempt will be to make this video as unedited as possible, meaning as raw and as real, uncensored, unplanned, so just real, pure as best as I can, honesty and kind of authenticity. And if I will cut some of the parts out, that's only because I was interrupted by someone around, and I just had to stop, and I will continue. But I won't be doing some extra editing where I'm like, I didn't like how I said that. Whatever I'm gonna say, it's down on record. So that obviously means the video is going to be a bit longer, but I'll do my best to be, precise and valuable. But that's again why I invite you to grab your preferred beverage, so we would sit down and have a kind of a full-on talk. So one of the first things I thought about starting off this video with is to use the Is Aikido a Cult video as a reference point, and what that brought up in me. And one of the things, kind of the criticism that I get once in a while, is people comparing my talking about Aikido as if I'm talking about my ex-girlfriend, not like directly, but like metaphorically. And I see their point. It's like you have a bad relationship, you break up, and then people just get hung up on that, and they just keep talking about it again and again and again, and they just can't let it go. And I see why people say that, and I could say maybe there's some truth to it, but that made me think. That criticism that I'm a guy who's just talking about his ex-girlfriend and can't just get over it. People are like saying you should move on and stop talking about Aikido, and I was wondering, okay, so are they right or not? And I think there's a number of sides to it. One is, what these people don't understand is I'm not doing those videos just for myself. There's also that myth that I do this for money, that this is all for money. And believe me or not, you choose to believe what you want. I can say it's not for money. Obviously, my YouTube channel does sustain me, but if I would do my YouTube channel just for money, it would look absolutely different. I have a kind of a weird relationship with money. I don't care that much about money. I have enough, and that's enough for me. So I don't make those videos, for that. They do sustain me, but it's definitely not like, oh, what video would make, more money from me? That's stupid. Those videos are not going to make me rich. There is a bit of a benefit for me in regards to my emotional state. I think talking, because the experience I had in the Aikido world, to a degree, I think it was, in a way, it was a bit traumatic. Like, I spent over 15 years training it. It was such an integral part of me. I invested so much time and energy, and it's difficult to say, and it would be unfair to say that it left me unscarred. I gave my full devotion to it. I gave my full attention to it, my faith, my energy, in a way, like my finances. I gave it all. And in a big way, I realized I was betrayed. I never really got what I was supposed to get. I was blamed for it. Like it was my mistake that I did not do it correctly on multiple occasions. That it's, there's this another myth, which I really don't like, is that it's not the martial arts fault, it's the martial artist's fault. And I made some videos about that, just debunking that and saying it's a stupid idea, it's a defensive idea for those who want to protect their martial art, by blaming the martial artist and not the martial art. But the thing is, no, it's universal. There are many Aikidoka like myself who I know now personally after years of exploring the subject, who went through the same path and they pressure tested Aikido. They failed and they realized, oh my God, I spent so much time in this and none of this really works. So my story is not an entirely unique story. Besides the fact that I'm the one recording this in a very sincere way, not hiding away from my mistakes. But it's a universal journey. Like many people go through the same, and it shows that it's not the individual's fault. It's something inherently in the martial art. But I don't want to go too much on that road. Actually, what I want to bring us back to is again the scarring, the trauma that it left in me. And I guess that's where people relate it with the ex-girlfriend, because if we have a bad relationship, we have a fallout with a previous girl, boy, it is in a way scarring as well. Love hurts. And in a way, yeah, for sure, I was hurt by that whole thing, by feeling betrayed. I was also too a part of a community. I was like one of the top people in that organization that I was part of, and I trusted those people. They were like family to me. I consider them my extended family. And in one day, I officially I quit it, but in a way I was pushed out of it. And again, you might have heard this point already. Depends on how many videos you watched. But the story goes that pretty much none of them contacted me. None of them understood why am I speaking against Aikido, and that was shocking. That was painful. That was hurtful. That people who I considered my family did not reach out to me and say, "Look, we're here for you, even if we don't agree with you." No, I got pretty much no messages. Just dead shut. And so I don't want to make this video into a complaining video, but the fact is that I did feel betrayed, and that was painful. And I feel that talking about it publicly, officially, I mean, not like necessarily even publicly, it's just I have someone to address in that way, but just talking about it does help me better understand what's happening and how it worked, and kind of go through that experience. And I can't say I'm completely out of it. My coaching therapist who consults me, uh, who coaches me, she pointed out that there was there's a sense of grudge in me as I speak about my previous experience, which is kind of a pointer, a sign that I'm not completely out of it. And I don't know if it's even fair to expect myself to be completely out of it, because again, I spent more than 15 years being a part of it, and it's only been a few years actually. It's crazy to believe that. It just feels so much has changed. But honestly, it's been only a few years that I'm out of that system, and part of my job now is to talk about it publicly, to share my journey, and that makes me come back to it and reflect it. But I don't think like it's a question whether it's ever going to be completely out of my system. Maybe, but I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised if it's always going to be a bit of a part of my system. But there's another side to this, and that's the side that I want to address too, is I'm not doing it just for myself. It's good for me, again, to talk about it, but I know that there are so many people who are going through the same, who are going to go through the same, or who went through the same, and they feel alone. Like I felt alone when I was debunking my Aikido experience, and I was like, holy crap, I was lied to, I was betrayed. What I believed in and what I structured my whole life about, my whole identity, turned out wasn't real, wasn't true. And the worst thing was I felt alone at it. The whole community, quote unquote community that was a part of, none of these people related with me. Nobody understood me. I had no one to relate to and tell me like, oh, I've been through this path. It's a normal thing. You're not wrong, and you're actually pointing out the right things. So don't worry about it. I didn't have that person. In a way, I did. In a way, I did. I didn't. And actually, let me fix this cool wallpaper. So okay, so in a way I did, and in a way I didn't. And so luckily because I made the whole journey public, I got reached out to by people like Roy Dean. I think was one of the first people to connect with me, and former Aikidoka, now BJJ black belt, who went through a similar experience. Nathaniel Chalkin, from Francisco de los Cobos. I slowly started to find people who supported me and who told me like, okay, look, you're not the only one. This is kind of normal. This is difficult, but kind of, normal. And then I met Matt Thornton, who went through a similar experience like 25 years ago, or even more. And so I realized I'm not alone, and that was super helpful. And but what helped me, I want to make sure that that helps others as well. I want to make sure that others who are going through that same experience would have someone who will articulate what they're probably still struggling to articulate. They kind of feel that something is off, and they feel that something is upsetting them, but they feel alone in their organizations, in their communities, and they're questioning themselves like, maybe I'm the the broken egg or whatever, like the wrong, I have the wrong perspective, because that's what communities like that, organizations like that, that's what they will tell you. They'll tell you you're wrong, you're not getting it, you're not understanding what we're telling you, and you have no right to question us, etc. And that makes you feel alone, and puts you in a really bad place. But that's one of the reasons why I keep talking about that. Not only because it's good for me. Again, I do recognize and admit that talking through it is, I think it's a healthy experience for me. But putting it on record, my primary source of motivation to do that is to connect with the people that are that need this. They need to hear this, and I do get those comments where people write to me like, "Oh, thank you for speaking about this, and thank you for sharing your experience. That really is helpful." That happens all the time, and that reminds me that it's important to keep pushing this through. It's important to keep talking about this, and I guess it would almost be easier for me to stop talking about Aikido, but that's what I'm good at. I'm in a unique position where I went through all of this. I spent so much time investigating my experience, and I can articulate it better than most people out there, and that's valuable. So for those people who don't like me coming back to the subject of Aikido and reflecting and looking at it through different angles, don't watch my videos. Don't complain about it. Obviously, you will still do that. That's part of the internet experience, but at least hopefully if you're watching this video, you'll see where I'm coming from. So yes, it is helpful to me to some degree, but my primary source of motivation to release those videos is to, first of all, support other people who are out there who are going through that same experience. And apparently, it's almost, it almost feels like there's never enough of these videos. Like as I had a traumatizing, scarring experience going through that betrayal and loss of identity, that's a difficult one to go through. It's like some people compare it to loss of religion, and I think it's loss of faith, and I think it's very true. It's a very similar experience. And imagine a devoted Christian who's been Christian for many, many years, and suddenly he decides God does not exist. Do you think that's easy? His whole world view perspective is based on that. It's not an easy experience. And so I'm having somewhat of a difficulty to completely let go of it and overcome it. But I'm working hard on it. And now we're also thinking about people who have no support. They have no, network of people who've been through the same, and who articulate that well. They don't, and luckily, this channel exists for those people primarily. I think that's what, who this channel is for, and other people are interested too. But I think we should always remember that people, it's probably not gonna, this experience that I went through, that I'm going through, is probably not gonna disappear anytime soon. Probably a lot of people are still going to go through the same. So that's one part of the video. But the other one I also wanted to look at, and let's have a sip of our drink, by the way, as we head on to the next chapter. So the next chapter is how biased I am. And To be honest, I actually wrote that comment even under the video Is Aikido a cult at the top of the comments. I wrote that I was hesitant about releasing it. And I was hesitant, I think, for a number of reasons. Part of it, I think, is actually that the ghost, metaphorical ghost of my Aikido instructor is still hovering somewhere there above my shoulder saying, "Oh, you're doing this wrong. You're being a bully." He is not a fan of my work, to say the least. And I think, somewhere deep inside that structure of me, that was a big part of me thinking, oh, will he approve that? That was a big part of that culture that I was in, and which I'm opposing right now. But it's not like a major part of me, but there's a bit of a part of me which still, checks in with that. And I noticed that I'm like, oh, shit, why am I doing this? But it's such a strong habit that's somewhere there, and so maybe that hesitation was a bit coming from there. But it's like a minor one, not like a major one. But other hesitations, one, I was concerned that I was actually potentially too biased in that video. Now, again, I got a couple of complaints about me speaking about my old girlfriend and not letting go, but I already spoke about that. But there were most people, I was surprised, were okay with what I said in the video. I even sent my video, the cult video, to a couple of people to double check and to ask them, okay, so is this, do you think this is too much? Do you think I'm stepping over some lines, and if I'm being too biased? Because I don't want to be too biased. I don't want to be biased. It's now again, I have to admit, it's impossible probably for me not to be unbiased. Again, I admit in this video that experience of feeling or being betrayed by that Aikido structure that I was part of was traumatizing. And so, since it had such an emotional impact on me, it's difficult for me to completely be unbiased. I tried it, but it's not easy. But still, I do my best. Nevertheless, when I finished recording that video, I think initially I was less biased, but as I went into it, it's just sometimes it's so enjoyable to debunk those old structures that were part of me. Those old beliefs, and just to admit it out loud and say, look, this is bad voodoo. This is not good. Fuck that. Again, you see that comes in me again. That swearing, which my coaching therapist pointed out, I think very correctly, that at certain points I swear when I talk about my past Aikido experience, and there's a correlation, there's a relationship. I didn't actually dig in enough to say exactly what that is. If you have ideas, let me know in the comments. Maybe that's old frustration coming out, or energy liberating, whatever. But there's a reason why I swear more when I speak about that. Like if you watch some of my videos on my new channel, now it's called Critical Thinkers. Before it was The Journey, where I have these types of videos where I just sit down and I just really, oh shoot, okay, you're important. I'm not answering this. Let's continue to talk. I'll call back. So, actually just restart the camera. So I have more videos there, which are just like free flow, unedited, and especially the first ones, there's a lot of swearing, and I love to swear. Because when I was a spiritual teacher, Aikido guy, I did not swear. I prevented myself from swearing, and I think it's kind of like counterbalancing myself. But again, that's something I kind of need to just think more on my own. But there's definitely there's still an emotional content there, and I think I keep reaching a better place, a more objective place. But again, it's undeniable that there's bias there. That I am to some degree biased, as also, although I try not to be. And when I was recording that video, the more I went into it, the more I kind of got into that flow of, fuckers, I'm gonna nail you. I think I got too biased at certain points, but I want to admit that, and I actually, because I was hesitant about releasing that video, I also decided, what, it's important that I release that video, because I want you, if you're following this journey, if you're taking, an inspiration from that you would see my process, that I wouldn't try to be this perfect edited guy who's taking out everything what he has doubts about. I made some videos which I'm not proud of in the past, but they were part of the process, and you were, whoever of you were following that journey, you were part of that process. You saw how I was sometimes being too biased, sometimes being too outrageous, but then realizing that, admitting it. It's a process, and I want to kind of document that process and to give you a chance to see that I think it's okay. It's natural to be that way. It's natural to, kind of be like this pendulum swinging until you finally get to the middle point. Uh, but the reason, another reason though I was concerned was actually the next day. I recorded that video. I didn't release it yet. The next day I woke up and I checked my phone, and there was an article by Josh Gold, the main editor of the Aikido Journal, and he wrote an article saying that Aikido is in a crisis right now. I don't even know if he used that specific phrase, but that Aikido is having a challenging time because of COVID. I know already from multiple sources that a number of dojos have closed down because they're unable to sustain themselves. I mean, all gyms, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gyms, MMA gyms, they probably have a difficult time these days. But I think especially Aikido, which in my opinion is in a state of decline, it's in a shaky place in its history because it's not like, very popular or approved these days by the internet at least. That they so the dojos are closing down, and they're having a difficult time, but they have to keep together and make their vision even more clear. And the thing is, I really respect that. I like Josh Gold. Let's put it on record. And I like what he does. And I don't think we're in a place where we could go on record together. I think I'm a bit of a too dangerous person for the Aikido community because I can be a bit heavy sometimes, but nevertheless I respect him. I think he's doing a great job. He's really, in my opinion, trying to be honest about the whole picture. But another thing that article brought in me was that realization that, damn, Aikido is probably struggling. They're having already a bad time. They're having a difficult time, and I'm about to release a video where I'm gonna make a claim or make pointers that Aikido is a cult. So basically, they're already like laying down on the ground, struggling to get up, and I come and kick them, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Is this like correct? And there I am, caught in that moment of considering. So there are those people. Oh, camera, thank you for capturing my arm. Anyway, so there are those people who are struggling, who need that support from videos like that, like the cult video, who it's important, people for whom it's important to hear a confirmation that their doubts are justified, to have a tool to realize what's wrong and what's good. But there's also the other side, and that's what I really wanted to put on record in this video. I don't think all Aikido is bad. And I think that's where I can get hung up on. I think one of my main flaws in my Aikido to MMA journey is I sometimes do tend to generalize things, and part of it comes from what I said in that video. I do think there are a significant number of dojos, teachers who or students who are in a very similar line of what I'm describing, cult-like, toxic, but that doesn't mean all of them are. And obviously, when I look back at my experience, since there is that negative emotional content in me, it's natural for me to get drawn to that and to speak about that. But I do my best to keep coming back and to say, okay, look, like not all Aikido is bad. In a way, Aikido did have good influence on me in some ways. Like if all of the destructive cult, spiritual guru nonsense would be removed, I would have benefited from Aikido. I would have benefited from the communities that I was in, from the connections I made at the day, and from what it gave to me. And I want to believe that there are dojos and teachers who are not that bad, who are doing a good job. And we shouldn't throw them under the bus. And I'm a bit concerned that that's what happens though. That that with me throwing Aikido in general under the bus, that I'm also throwing the good guys, and I don't want to. At the same time, I do think like, well, these good guys could also speak up. They could bring their opinion to the table. They could admit that not everything they do is great, or they could chip in and say, okay, I agree with you on this point. I don't agree with you on this point. Maybe I am missing that voice a little bit. Maybe I'm missing those guys who are kind of not, who are kind of in the middle, who are not doing a bad job with Aikido, who are doing a good job with Aikido, but I don't see them speaking up as much. But I also too, I guess it's hard for them because they are part of organizations, and those organizations are gonna, nail them on the cross if they speak about that. So it's a tricky situation, but that's kind of a thing that actually comes to me when I think about it, that maybe I'm missing those voices a little bit too, that would make me feel like, okay, stuff is happening, the Aikido community is also talking about it, I can step back. Or maybe they do talk about it, I just don't get to know about that. Sometimes I do get some information from other sources which say, oh, we're doing some surveys about, how should Aikido evolve, how our dojo should become better, and I think there's stuff happening. It's just I wish it would be more kind of public. Then I guess I wouldn't feel that same strong urge to voice my opinion and say, look, there's a lot of bad. But anyway, I think I'm kind of going on a tangent. But again, I think there's so many things that are in me that I would like to express, but there's only so much you can express in a single video because the brain starts to melt. So before we slowly wrap things up, let's drink a sip. So, so I guess some of the points, just summarizing some of the points I want to make is, I do admit sometimes I am too biased, although I try not to. I also think it's natural for that to happen because Aikido had such a powerful impact in me, positive, but also a lot of negative, which is still with me, and I'm still going through it. The videos that I release help me to piece things together, but also, more importantly, there are a lot of people who need those videos, I believe. And so I want to put it on record that that's the main reason I'm doing that. And I do think not all Aikido is bad. I think not all Aikido, like if I would take the bite model that I introduced in the cult video, not all dojos would fall into that, and I don't want to throw the good guys under the bus either. So I hope you'll be with me. I hope you won't throw the good guys under the bus either. That we both, you as the viewer and myself, we both will distinguish that there are probably some good places too, and we should support them. We should support the Aikido dojos which are trying to do good. And yeah, and the rest, well, the rest is different. I think there's a good reason some of the dojos are struggling, and hopefully they will transform. But that's a different subject. What matters to me more is the people who suffer from it, and that they would make the right decisions. They would trust their opinions. They would trust their doubts and intuitions that something is off, and they would have the tools to overcome that. So that's the primary reason for making those videos. And yeah, so I think it will take time for me to overcome this all. I do not know if there will be a day when I will be completely on a blank page and I'd be like, oh, they're talking about Aikido does not affect me at all anymore. But I'm progressing. I am moving on. I think I'm becoming less biased, less emotional about it. But I can't deny that some of the stuff is still there in me. And I don't think it's something that's right to judge. I think anyone in my position would be going through the same. Oh, my wallpaper just keeps disappearing. It's a cool wallpaper. So anyone who would have went through a similar experience like I did, trust me, they all have the same difficulties. And if you didn't go through that experience, if you didn't have that sense of betrayal on that same level, then you shouldn't judge. You don't. It's hard for you to understand. I understand, but you shouldn't expect others to just, you know, be unaffected in no way whatsoever. So yeah, but again, I feel like my brain's probably starting to be more soft, not as sharp anymore. And it ended up being just kind of a lot of reflections, and I don't know. Hopefully, you got some good out of it. But I just really wanted to sit down with you and to honestly recess, talk about it, to share maybe some of the things I did not say, some of the things which maybe were not on record yet, and to kind of be more on the same page so you would know where I'm coming from, how I feel, why I do this, and just to keep that journey going. So just let me know in the comments, what you think. What do you think? Did you get something good out of this video? What stuck with you? And what do you think about this whole process? Again, I do hope this video will be beneficial to you. I think it wasn't as sharp as I expected or hoped it to be, but also too, I guess that's what I wanted to put on record. So that's all I've got for today, and let's connect up in the comments, and thank you for watching.